And now,
it's 10 a.m.
Let's just get down to it.
And it's time for your sports fix.
Strap yourselves in, folks.
From two guys who have covered the teams you're passionate about for years.
We are professionals.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. Happy Wednesday to everybody listening, however you may be listening. To our podcasting friends in the future, hello. Ben, how's it going?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm good.
Welcome back.
Oh, thank you. Why, can I ask you this real quick? And then it's not like it's a slow news day or anything. But why is, when you're just getting on a plane and traveling across the country, in the case of us yesterday, we went from Dulles to Atlanta to Salt Lake. Got back at a reasonable hour. Had to get up pretty early, I guess. But why is it that travel is exhausting when you're not really doing anything? Is it an emotional thing?
It's got to be an emotional thing.
And in this case, I had like my 8-year-old was with me, and it was just the two of us, and that kind of adds to it. I mean, she's awesome, but you still have to keep track of somebody in a busy airport all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got home exhausted.
Yeah.
I mean, exhausted.
And there's the jet lag aspect of it, but I do think there is just a mental derailment aspect more so than just the physical wear and tear, because it's not that exhausting physically. You're right.
So I mean, hopefully people can identify with that. Maybe I'm unusual or something, but exhausted after basically doing nothing.
Yeah.
I watched like 3 movies.
Yeah, right. Took it out of me.
It's rough. Rewatched Capote.
Oh, did you like it?
Yeah, I mean, I liked it when I first saw it. It was good again the second time.
Yeah.
You notice things when you watch movies like that a second time.
Sure.
But yeah, you were kind enough.
that?
You were kind enough to hold down the fort while I was gone, and I handed you just a desert of information to navigate by yourself.
It was a bizarre 48 hours.
Absolutely nothing going on.
It was a bizarre 48 hours. I was already ready to come back Monday and recap a couple of games that were interesting. I think the outcomes were what we expected, but maybe how they got there was a little bit surprising. But, of course, that was just radically overshadowed by Monday, where it really felt like throughout our show, Kalani Sitake was headed to Penn State, and it felt like he was only gaining momentum. And then he had a bit of a weird press conference, I thought, which is how we wrapped up our show, which he was cryptic about what he was doing. And it seemed like the deal was all but done. And then BYU circled the wagons and got it done and paid him and made a huge investment in the football program, and now he's back.
It was interesting following this from afar, this whole story. I wasn't able to be glued to it 24/7, so you'll forgive me, Ben, if I miss a detail or two, and please feel free to correct me. But I believe that he had all but taken the Penn State job. I believe that.
100%. That, by all accounts, that is exactly the case. The meeting had been called for him to tell the team that he was not going to be their head coach anymore.
He was going.
Yeah.
I 100% believe that, and I 100% believe that BYU stepped in with a last-second package, so to speak, and an influence campaign that got him to change his mind to stay. The why, of course, is really interesting.
It's the most interesting aspect of it, and then what happens now?
So, I mean, I think there are several possible whys. Do you have one that, I mean, because I do not believe we have every bit as good a chance to win here as they do in Penn State, because that is not true.
It's not true. No, it's simply not true.
It just isn't. I mean, look at the selection committee. I mean, look what's going on. I mean, BYU is going to get left out with 2 losses. Penn State doesn't get left out with 2 losses. The Big Ten doesn't get left out with 2 losses. Yeah, you don't get left out
with 2 losses in the Big Ten, period.
So, I mean, that just conference alone, that's absolutely untrue. But that doesn't mean that his decision isn't a good one. And so that's why I think the why really comes in. And if the answer to the why is that he knows that he can run a successful program, win at a high level, jazz the fans, build on what Lavelle Edwards originally built. All those things matter, in my opinion. And we've seen a lot of hot coaches go to other programs where their formula doesn't necessarily work at that program, and we've seen it fail.
Yeah.
Now, we've also seen it succeed.
Urban Meyer,
and we could talk about why that is. The one that surprised me, and maybe this is just because I'm fresh from that part of the country, was I would not have predicted Bronco would succeed at UVA. It doesn't really matter why, but I was certainly wrong about that. He succeeded at UVA more than any coach they've had since the 80s. So his program was how he does things was remarkably transferable, and more so than I would have guessed. But we certainly, I think, have seen more of the hot coach fail, honestly. It'd be interesting to look at the percentages because what they do just isn't going to work at where they're going. Look at all the Texas coaches as of, like an idiot should be able to work at
USC coaches.
USC coach. I mean, the list goes on, and there's always that risk that Kalani's formula wouldn't work in college. What's it called? College Station?
State College.
State College, that's it. What's College State? No, that's Texas A&M.
Yeah.
State College, thank you. I knew it was one of those. But what his recipe might not work there. And it's a high pressure, high expectation environment that if it does not work, you are out. And maybe financially you're compensated, but you're not a legend and your reputation is damaged and all of the things that come with that from a risk standpoint. So I would understand why he would stay at BYU because what he does works at BYU.
BYU is safer. BYU is a softer landing spot than Penn State is. He already has a good working machine at BYU that should continue on and is lined up to continue to be very competitive, including talent that they have expected to come in the next few years. And now on top of it, there is a renewed or upped investment into him, into his coaching staff, and then into the program itself in the form of what's rumored $10 to $15 million a year in NIL on top of the disbursement that you get from being a part of the NCAA.
The funny thing is Kalani has been on the border of not being retained as BYU's coach. That has happened in his career where it came down to an extension talk and they were either going to extend him or not. And then he goes out and beats USC and gets some goodwill and they extend him and give him more of an opportunity. James Franklin loses 3 games, including one to UCLA.
Yep.
And they boot him. Penn State was in the playoff last year, if I'm not wrong.
They opened the season as the number 2 team in the country. Now, that's part of why they fired him, because they lost 3 games in a row. But that is something that you can do at Penn State that I don't think you can do at BYU.
But my point is that BYU, Kalani got latitude, and that was really even before he really proved it, right? I mean, he got a lot of ability to prove himself at BYU. They gave him a lot of loyalty, way more than other programs give. Obviously, I mean, we'll see what James Franklin does at Virginia Tech, but he did a really good job at Penn State.
Yeah,
he did. He did a really good job at Penn State.
Yeah.
And he has kind of a somewhat year. He doesn't even make it halfway through the season.
Right.
That's wild, right?
It is.
And I don't know if I'd be so quick to buy into that if I were Kalani either. So there's a lot of reasons to not take it. But if the reason to not take it is you feel like you can win at the same level at BYU than at Penn State, that is just not true.
Do you want to elaborate on that with you? Because I agree in some ways.
The lane train took LSU because you can win at a higher level at LSU than you can at Ole Miss.
Because of the name value helps.
Not name value, but also fan base. I mean, all those things, all the things that Kalani negotiated as part of his that all matters when it comes to winning at the highest levels. Right? I mean, we talk about it all the time. College football is an unequal playing field. And what do you do with the resources that you have? And your location is the entire chess match, right? And Ole Miss, we haven't seen it there. They've had 2 Mannings, and we haven't seen it there. LSU, you've 3 national titles with 3 different coaches. And I don't know if you've ever known an LSU fan personally, Ben, but they're crazy, and there's a zillion of them.
Yeah. I mean, the same goes for BYU.
Absolutely. I don't know. It'd be interesting to compare the fan bases. But I get it.
What I think is fascinating here,
but the system works against BYU. It's a total different argument. LSU has the system in its favor.
Of course.
It has the resources in its favor, and it has the location and the fan base and all those things. So you can say BYU has some of those things, but they don't have all of it. The system still hates BYU.
Yeah, it does, and we will talk about that when we talk about the college football rankings, I'd assume, at the top 3 stories. But what I am very curious about is BYU is trying to do something unique, which is, can you take the same resources you get at a Big Ten or an SEC school and put them in a Big 12 program and get the same results? You know, that's the experiment. You have changed the location of this experiment from State College, like you're talking about, or Baton Rouge, or all of these areas where you can win at the highest level because you have the name brand, because you have the fan base, because you have the history. Can you move those same resources to Provo and expect similar results? Because that's what BYU's betting on. BYU did not just give Kalani a $9 to $9.5 million contract, which is the rumor, and a $30 million college football roster every year? That's got to be the expectation now. To not win at the highest level, this can't be second place in the Big 12 again.
Okay,
this can't be the expectation every year if that's the investment you're making, and that's the bet they're making. So I am curious to see what this ends up looking like and what has to be good enough now to justify this cost.
Okay, so the answer to your overall premise is no, and I'll tell you why. Because the margin for error is so much slimmer for a Big 12 school than it is for an SEC or a Big 10 school. And it really has been for a long time, but especially now. So is BYU never going to lose a football game again?
Of course not. No, they're going to lose games, yeah.
Then the answer is no, they're not going to be allowed to compete at that level. How many undefeated national championships does Urban Meyer have?
1?
0.
0, yeah, didn't win the championship at Utah, obviously. So,
he lost to Virginia Tech when he won it at Ohio State.
Yeah.
Early in the year.
Yeah.
But he had a margin for error.
Right.
BYU, they're going to leave 2-loss if it happens that way, because obviously they're automatically in, which is such a chicken way to look at it, which is exactly what they're doing. Mm-hmm. They're saying, we're boosting our excuse to leave them out because we think they're going to lose to Texas Tech, and we're not going to include them.
Right.
And it's freaking awful. But would that happen at Penn State?
Of course not. No.
Never.
No.
So the margin for error is the problem here. That honestly is the big deal, because Kalani is going to lose games at BYU going forward. And there's a difference between losing a game and it totally costs you the season and losing 2 and you're still very much in it. It's college football is that slim that makes a huge difference. James Franklin was in the playoff last year. BYU, we should look at Penn State and BYU's record. What was Penn State, maybe a 2-loss team? BYU was a 2-loss team. Penn State was a no-brainer in, probably, with a good seed.
Of course.
BYU, they found an excuse to leave out. So it's not possible to do at BYU what they do at Penn State. No, it's not. Agreed. And it's not BYU's fault. It's no booster's fault. It's no resource fault.
No, it's the design of the system. They lost 2 games last year. They lost to Ohio State and they lost to Oregon, which are better losses last year than what BYU suffered. But regardless, what you're talking about, it's the same reason Texas is above Utah right now in the latest college football playoff rankings. And Texas, I think, has 3 losses, and Utah has 2. And Utah's 2 losses are to top 10 teams. Fewer losses, same quality of loss. No, they don't have a win over Texas A&M. But yeah, the margin of error is so much larger if you're in the Big Ten or the SEC, and that is by design. The system is designed to reward those teams and to punish you for existing. That's it.
They don't want to include you. That's the problem. They want to include Penn State. They don't want to include BYU. And that's been true at BYU since 1984, when they won the national championship and every other have in college football was like, well, this is never going to happen again.
Yeah. So I'm very curious. Again, I think this does go back to the experiment of same assets, different town, different part of the country with a different history. Will the outside forces respect you the same way?
It's kind of what Texas Tech did, right?
It's exactly what Texas Tech did, and Texas Tech has had to have 1 loss and beat BYU to be in the situation they were in, because if Texas Tech had lost to BYU, they would have flipped spots. They would be on the outside looking into the college football playoff right now.
Honestly, the whole Big 12 is in the same boat BYU is in. The system is working against them. How many Big 12 teams are going to get into the playoff max?
1. Well, 2 max.
2
max. If BYU wins, it's 2 max, yeah.
How many teams every year is the SEC going to get in max? 6?
Max 6, at least.
I mean, and
4.
they're going to make it bigger.
Right.
The margin for error is going to become 4 losses in the SEC.
Yeah.
It's not going to change for the Big 12.
No.
Maybe a little bit. Maybe all of a sudden they go from 1 to 2 or 2 to 3. But honestly, in basketball, what we're talking about is 1,000% possible. Football, nope, not.
Agreed. The system, again, we will talk about
so
this. So
Kalani State, the whole point is Kalani
Yeah.
State for other reasons than you can win big. And I'm not trying to drag BYU. I think the reasons he stayed are interesting and relevant. And he could go down as Lavelle Jr. if he really wins at BYU. Penn State, you can win for, James Franklin was there for 8 years, 7 years. You could win for 7, 8 years, be in the playoff.
Yeah, but you have
you're
one bad
out
year.
on your ear.
Yep.
Because some linebacker misses a tackle or whatever the case is, you can go through and nitpick every game.
Again, to your point, they made the college football semifinal last year. They won 2 playoff games last year. They beat SMU in the opening round. They beat Boise State in the second round. They made it to the semifinal and lost to Notre Dame by 3 points, and he got 4 games the next year.
And you don't even get in if you're BYU with that record, by the way.
No, you don't. No.
So
if BYU were to have lost, let's say BYU were
won
to have
2
gone
games in the playoff last year and is out on his ear the next year.
So here's
that
the
is
example.
amazing.
You're exactly right. Penn State went 10-2 last year. Their best win was over, you will not be able to guess this, Illinois, number 19 ranked team in the country.
Dog.
They lost to 2 teams, Ohio State and Oregon. What would they say if that was the case for BYU? Well, you lost to all the good teams on your schedule. You only beat the bad teams.
That's exactly what they're saying
That's
this
what
year.
they're saying now. So yes, at Penn State,
You're in.
you're in. You lost to Oregon? Let me send you some flowers. Yeah,
Well,
look at how
everybody
nice
loses
it is.
to Oregon.
Yeah,
No,
what a,
I mean,
what a wonderful loss.
come on.
Welcome to the club. But yes, if you're on the other side of it, if you're Utah or if you're BYU and you lose to Texas Tech, or you're Utah and you lose to BYU and Texas Tech, they say, you had 2 good teams on your schedule and you lost to them both. Why would we even consider you at all?
Yeah, Utah's a 2-loss team. They're never getting in.
Yeah,
like
not a
they're
chance.
so far out. There's not a chance they're going to get in.
Yeah, and BYU's going to lose because they're only is not going to get in if they don't win this weekend because they lost to the quote only good team on their schedule. Is the view of the national voting media that puts them in the spot in the AP poll that the college football playoff tries to say they don't consider, but of course they do, and they bring it into their own rankings, and then by the end of the year they can justify it as well.
So, I mean, I like that Kalani's staying because I think he's a great coach and he's doing a great job at BYU. He's a good person.
It's good for our jobs.
And I would love to one day hear, the pinpoint why, what really were his priorities. But whatever they were, just because it wasn't winning at the ultimate highest level does not mean that it's a bad decision.
Agreed.
It doesn't. And so even if he prioritized his family, said my kids grow up here.
Hey.
That was a big thing for Witt, right? We always heard that. Like his kids are all going to go to the same schools. That never happens in college coaching. Like there's something to all of that.
People should prioritize their happiness.
I agree.
Absolutely. You can have as much money as you want in the world and not be a happy person.
Stu
What's
Moore
the
will
value
love
in
Logan.
that? What's the value in having a bunch of money and being unhappy?
Jerry-
So if Kalani's happy and has a chance to win, good for him.
You don't think Jerry Sloan could have taken another job along the way? But Jerry was probably like, you know what? I get along with Larry Miller. I've got 2 stars. I'm racking up the wins.
The best example is Phil Johnson. Phil Johnson could have left for
great
head
point.
coaching jobs and said, I'm happy with Jerry.
Love
got my
Bear
little
Lake.
spot at Bear Lake.
Yeah.
I make enough. I'm happy.
Yeah.
I've got enough. It's a big thing.
I don't have to deal with the press or any of the BS that I don't really like doing. I actually just get to coach hoop.
Yep.
Nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
I totally agree. Mark Few staying in Spokane. He knows he can win there.
Yep.
He knows the recipe to win there.
Got enough.
He's got enough. He's, the talk of the town all the time. If you've ever gone to Vegas during West Coast Conference tournament and you just see the pack of Zags fans that are down there, he's got it really good.
Yep, he does. And Kalani does too. Kalani has
Yeah.
obviously a fan base that loves him, a school that's invested in him, and he can win enough that everyone will be happy.
All right, stay tuned. We will get to top 3 stories of the day at KSLSports.com coming up next. It's Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.